to St. Mary's Church because it's St. Mary. No one is ahead of her except the Lord himself. And we're always delighted to be here because of also all our friends in St. Mary. They chose the theme of this year as the parable of the Lord. The Lord, in his wisdom, gave the parables in order to illustrate certain idea or certain principle. And as a matter of fact, as a great communicator, he is the greatest communicator ever that transmitted the ideas to people in very simple words. Many times you find orators and big guys who speak, they speak complicated things. The Lord spoke simple parables that everyone understood. Maybe some of them had to take their time, maybe a lifetime, to understand what he is exactly meant for telling them that particular parable. And tonight we're going to talk about the big wedding banquet. You'll see it in Luke 14, and in Matthew 22 you'll have another addition to it. So what I'm going to speak tonight is about what is written in Luke 14 and the little addition that we have in Matthew 22. It's very interesting to see that the Lord talks about a wedding banquet. Wedding banquet. In the old days, according to the history in Palestine, what they used to do if you have a wedding is that the parents of both sides decide long time before about who is actually fit for the marriage from their kids. And they talk about it and the kids don't even know anything about it. That's the first step. And then later on, as they grow older, they talk to them about the engagement. The engagement, or actually the betrothal, when it happens, it is almost like the wedding. In other words, if anybody who is betrothed and his wife or her husband dies, the future husband, wife, she will be considered a widow. That's the way it was in Palestine of those times. And then the final thing, the big thing, is the wedding banquet. That is considered something big, and actually the banquet continues for about a week. It's a big event, and usually you invite first the real celebrities or big friends or something real good, and then other people, and you tell them ahead of time. You know, these days we say save the date. You tell you save the date. So you save the date so that you are prepared for all this. Jesus actually was talking to the Jews of his time that actually refused him. And he talked about the Jewish nation as they refused the Lord as he came to save them, and they probably, some of them understood. But actually, he made this parable for all times. The parables of the Lord is not for a certain age or certain people. It's for us all at all times. It is always timely, no matter when we are living, whether it's 21st century or the first century. It doesn't make any difference. His parables are live and his parables are usually timely for anybody at any time and for any society. So let us think about the parable as you say, well, the wedding, he have the wedding for his son. And of course here, the son is the Son of God, the parable. But let us talk about it a little more. The time comes. So they remind the people about the date and the invitation. He comes to the first guy, and the first guy says, well, I wish I really could attend, but I got a big problem. What's your problem, mister? Well, I bought a land, and I got to go and do some work on it and make sure it's good and all that, and therefore I really have no time. I'm sorry. Pretty bad, actually. But that's what the Lord's parable is. Then the second one, what's your problem? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't really come because I bought 5 pairs of oxen. Taboya. Well, they're new and I have to examine them. And I got to make sure they are okay because they are new. And I'm sorry, I can't come. What you knew before? You knew the date, but sorry, I can't do it. Third one, this is a real funny one. Oh, I married a wife. Yes, salam. You married a wife, and therefore I cannot come. يا أخي جيبها وتعالى روح. Excuses worse than anything you could imagine. So I said to the servants, the wedding is there. The banquet is ready. I have already opened it for everybody. Go get the lame and the blind and the people that have no reputation and anybody. Of course, he meant the Gentiles. The door is open for everybody. Get them in here. And then there were still some seats. He said, go and compel them to come because my doors are open, my banquet is there. And then you see in Matthew, the final thing, it says there in Matthew that the head of the banquet walks in, he finds a guy not wearing the proper robe. طب انت سمحت له يدخل. لا. Usually for these great banquets, the guys at the door makes people wait and they give them the robe. In other words, he didn't even have the decency to wait to get the robe, okay? So I told him, fellow, get out of here. You don't deserve to come in. So let's try to meditate. This is actually what we're going to meditate on tonight. First thing is, he says, the first excuse, I bought a land. Well, when Abuna asks somebody, why didn't you come to church? Today, nobody was going to tell them, I bought a land. But how could the parable that the Lord said is actually timely for all the generation, for us right here? You bought a land. Well, you're actually maybe saying, well, I really have a lot of work and it's more interesting than coming to you, Lord. I'm busy. Busy with what? God help us. The work makes us so busy these days, I don't even have time to eat. I eat on the go because my business, my work, I have to do this, I have to study, I have to reach this, and the whole world is like a mill, زي الطاحونة. They're killing us. And what at the end we're getting out of it? Zero, because we're all leaving this world. So I bought a land. Yes, you bought a land. You're trying to do your business. You're trying to make priorities more than going to the banquet. So therefore, that excuse, we might think it is silly, but we do exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Our priorities is our businesses, our studies, our going here and there, and to try to improve our situation. What's your situation? I want a better car. I want 2 cars, I want 3 cars, I want a boat, I want a big house, I want this and that, and then finally you lose yourself in the world, you lose your soul, and you miss the banquet. You see, the Lord is teaching us tonight is that He is number one. Nothing else comes in. He says, if you love your mother, your father, your wife, anybody more than me, you don't deserve me. يعني ربنا يعني قاسي للدرجة دي. No, He died for you and me. He died on the cross because of my sin in order to save me. So He then is my King. His priority is number one. You make His priority as your first thing in your life. He is your priority. Nothing else comes in the way, especially business. Business is no good. You can be the best in your business, but He's come number one. I remember about 47 years ago. I remember the date because the first priest in Chicago passed away and went to the Lord, Abuna Morus Bishai, and we were having a different priest every week until we got the next priest, the next permanent priest. So that one was actually a friend of Pope Shenouda, Abuna Antonis Haga from New Jersey. So he came here, so I went to have confession before I went to have communion. And I'm telling you this because it's very fit for the situation. I told him, يا أبونا أنا عندي شغل كتير, I have a lot of work, and I have to leave very early in the morning, and sometimes, and actually many times, I don't have time to pray at home, so I pray in the car. And it takes me about 45 minutes to get my work. So I got plenty of time to pray in the car. He said, believe me, do not rob God of His time. You get in the morning a little earlier than you usually do and stand and pray at your home. Because your car, you can hear all the songs, all the prayers, you can pray whatever you want, but don't slight the Lord. Let Him bless you all your life. And from that time on, I took that as a big advice from God Himself. Don't rob the Lord of His time. His priority in your life. Sometimes we do not do what's good, and sometimes we fail. I'm not saying that I did that every time, every day. I fail like any of you. But these words are in my mind for 47 years. I never forgotten what He told me in the confession. Business will thrive. Your life will be blessed. Our lives will be blessed. We will have the joy of the banquet if we put Him first, so the business cannot be standing in the way of making God our priority. Second one, I bought 5 pairs of oxen, and I have to examine them. They're new, and I don't know what do you think about new things. New things need to spend time with them. None of you here will go to Abuna and say, I didn't come to church because I bought 5 pairs of oxen. But how about buying new phone? What is it? iPhone 1, iPhone 2, 3, 4, what is it, 14 now? Takes time, takes my time. I don't have time. I have new things. There are always new things in our world today. Every day there is new things. They're great. They're making our life much better than it used to be. I don't know, I'm not sure 100% what I'm saying. But it's curiosity. It gives me in the tip of my hand all the information in the world. I can do even more things with the new things. You know, the new oxen, new things, new things in my life. Every day there is distraction with new things. And the minute you stop, they'll get something else coming, new thing coming. And believe me, these new things did not improve the quality of human beings one bit. As a matter of fact, it made human beings more distracted, unable to concentrate, read less, meditate none, ignore others that are beside you. New things. We worry about new things. We want new things. New oxen. Got new oxen. I got to examine the new oxens. Got to examine these new things. As a matter of fact, we can find people in the church. As a matter of fact, in the sanctuary. I have to catch teenagers playing with the sin. I said, oh, I hope you are with a Coptic reader following this. Said, okay, uncle, no. Okay, I'm sorry. He puts the thing in his pocket. Why? It's curiosity, new things, new distractions. And what are you going to lose? You're going to lose the banquet, the wedding banquet, the great wedding banquet. How can we be so callous to sacrifice this great banquet, the great wedding banquet, which was something great that He prepared for us, for these silly, dumb things? Of course you say, you're an old guy, you don't know what is new this day. No, I'm not an old guy. Because the ideas that's in the Bible is timely at all times. And we better open up our eyes to see what the world is getting us into. Many distractions, many distractions. And what's happening is that we are fascinated with illusions that at the end gets us nowhere. See? And not only gets us nowhere, we lose our eternity because of these silly things. You see? But at the same time, I'm not an ignorant person to say these things are not good. No. God first. New things, I use it for the glory of God, for the betterment of my work, for being honest and produce a lot more. Yes, it's all fine, but not on the expense of the wedding banquet that I'm invited to. You see? He is number one. Comes the third one. I married a wife. Yes, salam. That's a big deal, huh? Married a wife. What are you going to do? Well, you know how it is. I got to get acquainted with her. I got to know things, and I can't really come to a wedding. I'm busy with her. What's a wife? Family. As he says, if you love a father, a mother, a sister, a brother, more than me, you don't deserve me. He's very zealous God. Why? Because He loved us so much. He did so much for each one of us, and He does not want anything to stand in our way to have relation with Him. As a matter of fact, he says at one of the verses that you hate your father, your mother, this, you cannot come to me and deserve my kingdom. Very strong words, but that's the way it is. In the same time, of course, you love your wife, you love your husband, and it comes right after the Ten Commandments, right after the honoring God is love your father and mother. So, and this is actually your family comes next, right after God, but it cannot be replacing God. If you love them more than me, you don't deserve me. If what they say, your intimate family, if they say something that is not getting you to the kingdom of God, you obey God. Family affairs. Too many times we have the excuse of the worries and the things in the family. This happened, I couldn't do it, I can't. And God is not in number one. Guess what? The children of that kind of a marriage, when they see that God is not number one, they also are not going to be number one. As a matter of fact, more so than ever, when they say when you recruit first-class people, recruit first-class people. Second-class people recruit what? Third-class people. That's why generations become degraded as we go down the road. If you are not having God as number one in your life, God will be number three in their lives. It will be worse. And then we wonder why in our families things didn't go well. It starts with the parents. It starts with the husband, who is the king or the priest of the family. He puts the way for getting into the Lord's kingdom priority before anything else. If he doesn't do that, God help the children, and God help the children of the children. And it's much more important in our lives now, especially in the land of immigration. Long life means I have seen a lot. And you can see this happening generation after generation. Those who are faithful, most of the time, I didn't say all the time, most of the time, their children become faithful, you see? Because this is the way we are a small community, and they look up to us what we actually do, not what we say, okay? It can be going to a vacation. I would say, I don't have time for vacation. It's the only time I'm going to miss the church or the fasting or this and that. And we will go, it's okay, But then I would say exceptions, please keep it as exceptions. It cannot be so often and it's an exception. And besides, would you please, every one of us, including myself, have to check with our Father of Confession. We have to have a spiritual guide. Not everything goes as we think, no. اللي ملوش كبير يشتري له ايه؟ كبير. أعرفش أقولها لكم بالإنجليزي إزاي؟ This is important spiritual guide in every step. Every one of us needs a spiritual guide. But exceptions, please keep them as exceptions. Because I see people making the exceptions every other week. That's not an exception. See? Now comes the last thing that Matthew mentions. Okay, he gets everybody in. As a matter of fact, not only, there were room. And he sent the servant, said, compel some. St. Cyril of Alexandria, the pillar of faith, the Pope now in 24, said something very interesting. He said, the Lord never compels anybody against his will, but with his love, he was telling everybody in the street, don't really miss this great occasion. Come, you will see what happens there. Of course, not all of them came still, but he filled with all those guys. Now comes this guy who really, he was crashing the banquet. He didn't care about the robe or anything. He wants to eat. He wants to eat, no reverence, no respect. روب يا عمي أروح ناكله بس مش أكلة حلوة. It's nice meal. I hardly have anything to eat, and this guy giving me this, I don't care robe or no robe, I'm going to get to eat. Well, the Lord said one time when after he fed the multitude, and next day they were looking for him all over the place. Yeah, he went to the other side of the lake. Where were you, Lord? Alone, because you have eaten from the bread and were filled, you're coming to me. I want the people that come to me, come because of me, not because they filled their stomach. This guy didn't care about anything, no respect, no reverence, no anything, and he just crashed in. How about some of us do this thing? Yeah. I don't know who made the rule that if you don't attend the gospel, you cannot have communion. You hear that, huh? I mean, our priests are trying their best to bring people to the church early, so they give up and they say, okay, at least you come to hear the gospel. That's not really you wearing the right robe. The right robe is a preparation, and the preparation starts from the time the readings start. The reading is not put for somebody to be going around looking for things, talking to his guy. As a matter of fact, no, most of the deacons will be trying to think what to say next. And the people in the end maybe ياخدوا تعسيلة. They because it's a reading. Huh? This is actually put for us to prepare us for the big banquet that we take, the body and the blood of the Lord. He said to his disciples, you are all pure because of the words I gave to you. And we cannot spend some time to hear his words and purify ourselves by his words, hear it and have our hearts ready for the big banquet. No, we want to come, it's just like to go, huh? Have something wrapped to go. Oh, I'm glad I got to the gospel maybe at the end, or at least I heard something. And I was here in the gospel. No. That's not the preparation. We have to prepare ourselves. This is the body and the blood of the Lord. We have no respect if we crash in like this. Something like 28 years ago, one of my children had his wedding. And in the reception, we found some people, I didn't know who they are, and the other side of the family didn't know, the wives or the bride's family didn't know who they are, so we suspected. So we told them, who you are? Oh, I am for the other guy. Yeah, the other guy. They tried to trick us. So we found out that they are crashing. They're crashing the wedding reception. So we got the police, got them out. Very funny story, huh? But what happens here, we crash the party. Huh? We crash the party. We say that those guys are dishonest. But really, to think about it, we're crashing the party. We are not preparing ourselves to take his body and blood. Or maybe there is some pressing event and the priest will allow you to go. Again, exceptions and exception. But to have this as our habit, this is no good. This is not what the church has prepared for us. It's prepared for us to have the royal robe so we can deserve to be in community with him and with the rest of the people in love, to deserve to take his body and blood. So now, to wrap this up, we shouldn't have the business and our work stand in the way of the priority of God. Number two, we don't have to have the novelties and the new things, the distractions, to stay in the way between us and the Lord. And number three, the family comes next to God. He is number one, and they cannot be number one and replace him. And the last one is, we have to prepare ourselves with the right robe and right mindset before we get to take his meal in the wedding banquet that he prepared to us on the altar every week. And glory be to God forever. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Atef.